Morning, everyone. We're thrilled to announce today that we've been able to accommodate Governor Cuomo's request to dramatically accelerate the rollout of MTA's eTix program. eTix is the free MtA app that will allow Long Island Railroad and Metro-North Railroad customers to purchase their tickets anytime and anywhere with their mobile devices. The full rollout was originally scheduled to be complete by the end of this December. This app will now be available to riders of both rail systems by the end of the summer, a challenge that the governor gave us, and we took it on. The rollout will be taking place on a staggered basis to accommodate the necessary training that we need to have for our train crews, our conductors. As of last week, the eTix app was available to riders on Long Island's Port Washington branch and Metro-North's Hudson line. During the week of July 25th, mobile MTA eTix will become available on the Metro-North Harlem line. And then during the week of August 22nd, we'll have full system-wide implementation of MTA eTix as the app becomes available for the rest of the Long Island Railroad and Metro-North's New Haven line, the most heavily traveled line in the country. Once MTA eTix hits your line, you won't have to wait in line at the ticket booth or a ticket machine. You'll be able to buy your tickets before you leave the house, on the way to the station, or whenever and whenever you want. And that means greater convenience and freedom from that which you've had to experience in the past. This launch follows a very successful field test of MTA's eTix, during which the app was tested by nearly 150 customers who ride the Long Island Railroad's Port Washington branch and Metro-North's Hudson line. I'm sure you want to see the app for yourselves, and there are plenty of folks here who can demonstrate the app for you. They are lined up at the table over there. But it's really pretty simple. It's something that you can handle by yourself. First, you buy a ticket with just a few taps by entering information about origin and destination and selecting the type of ticket, whether it's a monthly, a weekly, a 10 trip. The ticket is then saved in an electronic ticket wallet feature in the app itself. Just prior to boarding the train, you pull up the ticket from the ticket wallet and activate it by tapping on the Activate Ticket button. Finally, when a conductor comes through the train to ask you for tickets, you simply show your smartphone screen to the conductor. The launch of MTA eTix is just one part of our overall mandate from Governor Cuomo to enhance, renew, and expand the entire system in the shortest time frame possible, something that he has been very firm on that we must do, and he's right. This past May, we issued a request for proposals to create an entirely new fare payment system for all of the MTA network, for its subways, its buses, MTA Bus, and the Staten Island Railway. That system will be fully compatible with MTA's eTix and will offer a variety of convenient ways to pay for fares, including smartphones, contactless bank cards, and prepaid cards. So no matter how you ride parts of the system, it will be a much greater convenience for you in doing so, something that you've been able to experience in most of other parts of your life, whether it's buying tickets for entertainment or other modes of transportation. I'd like to now have Mark Heavey, the Director of Marketing MTA, come up and demonstrate the new app for you.
As Chairman Prendergast mentioned, this app is very easy to use. We have thousands of our Long Island Railroad and Metro-North riders using it today. First, you have this icon on your phone screen. Like any other app, you tap this icon, and it launches a load screen, or what they call a splash screen. And your home screen is where you can buy your tickets. You can see there's some starred trips there, which are trips that I take often. I can save those as my favorites. When you click Buy Tickets, you can choose either Grand Central or Penn Station as your origin and choose a destination. In this case, I'm going to Ansonia. I'm taking an off-peak trip to Ansonia. I have my credit card already loaded into the app. I click the credit card, and by the way, you can also use a pre-tax benefit card and split payments if you wish to. Your transaction is successful, and now that ticket from Grand Central to Ansonia, off-peak, is saved in your app's ticket wallet. When you're ready to travel, you find that ticket in your wallet as the train approaches, and before boarding, you click on that ticket, and that activates the ticket. When you use this app, this actually has full motion to it so that you see that it's an activated ticket. You show that to the conductor as he comes through the aisle, and you're good to go. That's it.
We've had a number of press conferences to talk about things that we've been doing over the past few months. A lot of them revolve around our capital program and the improvements we need to make to the system. The strongest advocate we have had for getting that capital program, the largest capital program in the MTA's history, over $27 billion, is the governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo. That's good for us. State of good repair, renew, improve the customer experience, enhance, and expand the system. Badly needed because we're having overcrowding and seeing record ridership. The capital program is good for all of us. It's good for the people who run the system. It's good for the people who use the system. It's good for the people who are legislators and represent the system. But the other piece that the governor's been pretty good at, actually very good at, is giving us challenges to get beyond the paradigms within which we stand. One of the most difficult things I've had to do in my career is bring new technology into the system. And to say that I'm probably, I wouldn't say reluctant, but very, very hesitant and cautious is probably an accurate way. But the governor has taken a position is don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Make sure we bring enhancements in the form of technology to customers who have those same technology features available in other parts of their life. So he is your strongest advocate for us to stand outside of where we have stood for years and bring to you the enhancements you need. And with that, I'd like to introduce the governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much. I welcome back after July 4th weekend. I trust and hope everyone had a healthy and a safe one. Mark Heavey, I want to thank him very much for a great presentation, great job that he just did. Mr. Heavey has many talents. He also happens to be a great fisherman, I want you to know. You would not know that. But I know that because he came up to the Catskill Challenge last week, which was bringing attention to the Catskills, and he caught a really beautiful trout fly fishing, which is an art form. So the demonstration he did was extraordinary. Frankly, I found it more extraordinary that he caught that over 20-inch trout. So let's give him a round of applause. To Chairman Prendergast, who I have said before has the hardest job of most people, almost any job in public service, but he also has a harder job than his predecessors. Why? Because his predecessor's job was primarily to operate this system. You have an MTA system, 9 million people are walking in the door every day, and you have to make 9 million people happy the way you operate it. That is an impossible job, because these are not just 9 million people, these are 9 million New Yorkers. So making 9 million New Yorkers happy every morning is really difficult. So, and that's what most of the predecessors in Tom's job did. They operated the system. Tom has a broader and I think a more impactful challenge. He has to operate the system. He also has to simultaneously build a new system. Not rebuild the existing system, not fix the existing, he has to build a new. Why? Because the MTA system, as we now have it, was built in a different time and in a different place, and it cannot handle the volume and the scale that we are talking about today in New York. And it is, you can't do it with Band-Aids, and you can't stretch it any more than we've stretched it. The system is just too small to manage this population. It's that simple. Behind me is a board that gives you an example of what the old-time MTA was about, where they would literally write with chalk what the next train is, and they'd erase it and they'd change it with chalk. That was the train system that we developed. And we haven't really developed a new system going forward. Listen to these numbers. Subway system was built in 1904 for a population of 3.4 million. Today it handles 8.2 million people. Basically, the same system, same tracks, same operating protocol from 3 million to 8 million. LIRR was built in the year 1840 for a population of 78,000. Today, you have 7.6 million people using that system. Metro North, its predecessors, 1850, was built for a population of 131,000, now 1.4 million. You can't make a system that was designed and constructed for that scale work for the current day scale. And government tried in fits and starts to use baling wire and duct tape and bubble gum and all sorts of ways to make it work. It's not going to work. You have to build a new system. And by the way, that is the New York way. New York built a system, and that built system drove the capacity and drove the growth. New York grew because New York could grow. New York grew because we built to grow. We're now doing the opposite. We are stultifying by keeping the same scale and the same growth. Now, you can argue construction is much harder today than it used to be. When was the last time we built? Really during the Robert Moses time, where we built, and we built almost with a reckless abandon. Roads, bridges, transportation infrastructure. We are now in a reverse Moses period. If we were overly aggressive and overly fast, now we are handcuffed when it comes to building. What is the last big thing we built governmentally? And how long did it take? And what was the impact? You now have community opposition to any proposal that you come up with. And once you have community opposition, well, now it's controversial, and nobody wants to do it because it's controversial. The competence level of government in many cases has gone down. And government doesn't have the same competence that it did, doesn't have the same capacity that it did. Our society is now more litigious than ever. You do something that they don't like, you put a plant in the wrong place, they sue you. And I don't mean a plant, a facility. I mean a plant. I mean a rose bush. They'll sue you. Everybody has a lawyer, and they go to court, and once they sue you, that's now months and months of delay. That is the challenge for the MTA. We have to build a new system in this environment, and by the way, operate the existing system while you're building the new system, which even further compounds the problem. But it is the fundamental obligation of the MTA today. Because if we do not build a new MTA system, the vision of the old MTA, which was to build a transportation system that would drive growth, the MTA will do the exact opposite. We will constrain growth. Because you can't grow the region unless you grow your transportation system. I had a conversation with a couple of gentlemen last night. They said, I just can't drive into the city anymore. I won't do it. Any time of day, it's 2-3 hours to drive into the city. The city is at its max by its transportation system. They're talking about a projected population growth by the year 2040, an additional 3 million people. You want to grow the region? You have to be able to move the people who you're inviting to grow in that region. And that is the transportation system. The key of the transportation system, the heart is the MTA, but it's not just the MTA. That's why we want a new LaGuardia Airport. That's why we want to redo JFK. That's why a new Tappan Zee Bridge. That's why a new Penn Station and a new Farley. If you don't build a fundamentally new infrastructure and transportation system for New York will not have the future that it had in the past, because you literally will not have the capacity to move people. And that's why this is so important. This specific today fits in exactly with that. Part of the new construction is using technology. And introducing technology to a bureaucracy is very hard, as Chairman Prendergast said. Why? Because it's change. And change is hard. You know, we like to talk about change. We're going to change this, we're going to change that. Change is good, change is positive. Yeah, but that's really baloney. We don't like change. You know, the husband and the wife sitting at the breakfast table in the morning, and the husband says to the wife, you know, things have to change. And she says, oh yeah, things have to change. Yeah, he means she has to change, right? He wants to stay just the way things are. He's fine, he's perfect. It's the other person. You try to bring change to a bureaucracy, it is extraordinarily difficult. They say, no, this is how we do it, and I like control. And change is uncontrolled. And change is chaos, and I don't want to do it. And it is pushing a stone uphill, and you have to push that stone every day. Technology, it's frightening to a bureaucracy. But congratulations, Tom Prendergast, he did. This e-ticket system for the railroads is where the economy is now. You take out your device, you scan it, and you pay for something. That's how it works. And that's how it's going to work on the railroads. This is being rolled out. This is now on the Port Washington branch and the Hudson line. It is not yet on the other lines. It will be by the end of the summer. I was harangued this morning by a person who said, well, it's not on her station. It's not on all stations on the railroads until the end of the summer. But this is a new technology. It's bringing the railroads to the same level of technology as most services, which is an extraordinarily upgrade in the case of the MTA. And at the same time, we're going to be putting out a contract to replace the MetroCard. MetroCard, we're going to say bye-bye after 20 years. We want one interoperable technology system. So the system you use on the railroad is the system that you can use for MetroCard. And just the way you can scan in a grocery store, you should be able to scan when you get on the subway. That is further down the road. We're just doing the contracting for it now. But that is the vision, to have one interoperable technology system that works with technological devices. And that is part of not just rebuilding the MTA, building a new MTA as part of a new transportation system. Expediting construction is an extraordinarily difficult task, and Tom Prendergast and his entire team have been doing a great job. Yes, I have been a provocateur of the progress, a constructive and happy provocateur nonetheless, because the resistance to change is unbelievable. And I've worked at every level of government. I've worked in the private sector. It's always the same. You get a bureaucracy as big as the MTA, as entrenched as the MTA. If you don't push every day, it's not going to happen, especially with the obstacles that we have to begin with. So it's going great. This is a great step forward. And again, congratulations to the whole team. Thank you.
That concludes the ceremony for this morning. Thank you very much for coming. And there is staff around if somebody wants to get some specific instructions on the app.